So thanks everyone for joining the Zoom training today. My name is Laura Netmeyer, and I'm a volunteer with a national cross-partisan organization called American Promise. And we're focused on the problem of big money in politics and a 28th Amendment to the US Constitution as a mechanism of fixing it. So today I'm going to speak a little bit about the problem, but mainly we're going to have fun with the Democracy Brewing Bingo, and we're going to be doing a little bit of training on that. So the bingo, the Democracy Brewing Bingo was a fun educational event that we had at a brew pub in January of this year. And because we haven't been able to have that kind of events recently, we've been looking at ways to bring this onto a virtual platform like Zoom. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to play the bingo. I'm going to introduce the materials. I'll show you how everything is all together in one Excel spreadsheet, which many of you already have. So if you're able to print that out for a group of people, you can go to a party and take these materials with you. Otherwise, you can send out the materials ahead of time, maybe issue cards one by one to people as they register for the meeting, and then you can play on the screen like what we're going to do today. So the first time I did this, I gave a little bit of an introduction to American Promise. And so for that, I'll just share with you quickly a couple of slides from a presentation that we use when we're giving background on American Promise and the main problem of money in politics. So we like to think about imagining a government that's run by people, not money. And here we have the cartoon of the optimist who's saying, there's got to be a democracy in here somewhere. And he's digging through just a sea of campaign money in order to find it in the weeds somewhere. So at American Promise, just hold on for a second while my clock is ticking here. American Promise is what the organization is called that I've been working with the last couple of years. And we could just say, well, you know, what is our American Promise? We mean that, first of all, we have equal citizenship, that we have equal representation in our government, and we believe in human liberty. And because we have these things, we really strive for effective self-governance. And these are all values that we believe in as a basis for our governance, whether we're Democrats, Republicans, Independents, or what our important issues are. The problem that we have been having more and more recently is one of the influence of big money in our politics. So those with more money have more political power, and they use the money to buy more representation, and they get extra rights that most of us don't have. And because there's so much money, the wealthy special interests really drown out the voices of ordinary citizens. So this is producing outcomes that are really not in keeping with what people want, which is exactly the opposite of the way our country was founded and what we believe in. So regardless of what your issues are and what you think are what your priorities are for your governance, we're all affected. Everyone in this room, while you might share the same American values, we really have lost a great deal of our control and influence over fixing these problems. And so one of the reasons that I got involved in this work, I'll just show you quickly one picture. It's actually two pictures. This is my family. The one on the left is a picture of my sisters and my mom. And this was taken about 20 years ago. My nephew there is 1 year old. And the second picture on the right is the next summer where we were having a vacation on Martha's Vineyard. So we're having a lunch there on this jetty in the harbor. And it turns out now, okay, it's only 20 years later, what's happening with the piers and the landings on the vineyard is now that they have to be rebuilt 5 feet higher because of sea level rise and climate change. And the coastline is changing. So who actually knows these days if these boys that you see in the picture can even sit on those jetties? And I guess what I learned is this, as with every other issue, every other sector of our lives, you know, Congress hasn't really been able to take effective action because of the influence of big money on climate change and every other issue that we care about. So I'm working on this in order to try to change the course of our decision making and effectiveness of our government to really do something to ensure the you know, the preservation of the future for you know, the next generation. The 2 boys that you see on the left here, those guys, they're one of them just got married and the other one is going to get married, you know, in September. So we'll just go from here. I'll stop sharing this little intro here. That's what American Promise is about. What I found in the work that I've been doing is most people kind of think of a constitutional amendment as like a super hard thing. And it is a super hard thing. It should be a super hard thing. But it's also a normal thing, right? The Constitution's been amended 27 times already. It's only a natural course of the calendar that I'm just about old enough to remember that there was a constitutional amendment in my lifetime. Actually, there were 2. So this bingo game that we're going to do is going to show you how a lot of things that you take for granted are the result of constitutional amendments, and also that it's not this like freaky thing about powdered wigs or even suffragettes, right, which we can't take for granted. Those were constitutional amendments too. So maybe we'll have a little fun with that. So what we'll do now is we'll look at the rules of bingo. And so bingo is, you know, a game that you can play if you're in kindergarten or if you're in a senior center. It doesn't matter. You don't actually have to know anything. All the answers will be provided. And I'll show you the kit. This is the whole thing. The entire kit is right here. It's in the Excel spreadsheet. You have this container of, this is the game cards. These are the questions. In the Excel spreadsheet, these are on a certain, on one of the tabs, and each one of them has the American Promise logo on the front. Inside, it has a question, which will show like that, and it also has an answer. And we'll get, what we're going to do is we're going to put these all in the bowl. We're going to mix them up. We're going to pick them out, and then one by one we'll take turns reading them. And then we take our bingo cards. These I printed on the formatted Excel spreadsheet, which is another tab of the file that I sent around. You know, that's available. So these cards, the materials are just printed on normal cardstock. They print 2 together like this. Some of you received a card in the mail or on the email already. Just one sheet comes with 2 cards. This is in case you have a friend or a partner. You don't have to send out, you know, 2 files or separate files. This is not, nobody's cheating at bingo. It actually is, you know, it's a statistical game in any event. It's a random thing, right? So that doesn't matter, you know, too much. And then, oh, in order to do the bingo in person, of course, you need markers. So you can use buttons or you can use coins. What we did at the brew pub was we used the goldfish, we used pistachios, We put them in plastic cups. We also had cinnamon jelly beans, different things like that. And we also had prizes. This is one of the most popular prizes, was this nice chocolate bar. We had lottery tickets. Whoever wins the bingo first gets to pick of 3 or 4 prizes. It turns out we've been able to do this part with the prizes and everything on Zoom also. So I'm going to show you another screen now, just quickly. I'll show you. Here's my, I'm going to show you my Amazon shopping cart. This is what we used last weekend. We had, I searched on, just because it was easy with shipping, to use Prime quickly. But if you had something like lottery tickets that you could just put in an envelope to some people, that would be really easy too. I like to get the prizes up and available early, and so people can see early in the game what's being offered for those of you who are gonna win. And since you have this already on your screen at the time that you're running your bingo, if you're doing a virtual session, then it's easy to just put their addresses in and then they get their stuff promptly. So that's a lot of fun. I would say the third page of the Excel spreadsheet has this other page called instructions. Instructions for printing and playing Democracy Brewing Bingo. And I had sent this around an earlier version. Now I've added this new section down here that's called Zoom modifications. So the instructions on the top are really the ones that I just told you about, that if you're going to a brew pub or a bowling alley or somebody's family room, you can do it that way. And then if you're on Zoom, you have special considerations. And hopefully everybody gets to log on or register more easily than they were today. Okay, so now we start. The rules of bingo are we'll take a question, we'll read it. And what we're going for is either having 5 across or 5 down in a column or diagonally. And what's going to happen is, let's see, some of the cards, actually the center square might be free, which is a bonus for you, but those are actually not the most advantageous cards because many of the questions have 3 or 4 answers. So you'll see that there'll be at some point an opportunity to fill in more than 1 square on your card, depending on the card that you got. So you'll see how this plays out in a couple minutes. You put down whatever, just mark the squares that you have, and then you let us know when you have bingo across or down or diagonally. Any questions? Okay, so far so good. All right, now we start to play. So someone can read. This is the first question. Here we go. Who wants to read? Heather?
Okay. I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. What did the 2018 election of Congress cost?
And the answer is?
5.8 billion.
5.8 billion.
5.8 billion. Okay. So look on your card and see if you have 5.8 billion somewhere. What's really nice about having the answers on the bingo cards is that people can start to look at the cards and anticipate, asking themselves, what is the answer to this question? Is it reasonable to say 700 million or 5.8 billion? Many of the squares have either years for constitutional amendments, or they may have state names, or they may have special numbers, percentages. You'll see different answers.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm not a bingo player, so this is all new to me.
Mhm.
So when you introduce the question, you also tell the answer, And a person
Mhm.
gets to put a marker on their bingo card if they have that answer on their bingo card.
Yes.
So nobody has to guess anything. It's just a matter of whether you have what
That's
you've
right.
called out. Okay.
That's right. And what makes this a very good educational game for bingo is that because people can see the potential answers on their card, they start to ask themselves, was that amendment in 1933 or was it in 2020?
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
you start to anticipate what is the relative size of the amounts of money
Mhm.
or the timeline in terms of years, or let's see, is that a Republican or a Democrat, and what would I maybe anticipate their thoughts on this may be? All these things may come into play.
So it's not a trivia game. It's just
It's not, that's why you don't have to know anything.
okay, I get
All
it.
the
I'm
answers
getting
are
it a little more
provided.
clearly.
And everybody has an equal chance of winning
Mhm.
based on the randomization of the bingo cards.
Okay.
This is not who's smart or knows anything about anything. Great. Okay. And I see,
Okay.
great, I see Sally's joined us. Awesome. Oh, sorry for any trouble people may have had logging in today. If you're playing the bingo in a brew pub and you want to use your materials ever again, like I put mine on nice cardstock so that I'd be able to use this thing over and over and over when I'm able to go to brew pubs again. And that means you want to be sure that you retrieve all the questions after they've been pulled out of the hat. You want to make sure that they get back in a safe place, because otherwise the game won't work if you don't have the questions printed. If you lose one, you have to reprint them. Okay, next question. Somebody read, please.
How many hours per week are MOCs expected to raise, members of Congress, expected to raise money?
And the answer is
20.
20. Half their time. So
I knew that.
we may not be too shocked by that because we're used to thinking in the terms of the problems of this topic, but a general audience usually finds it shocking that running for the House of Representatives is therefore a part-time job. So the other part is raising money, not such a
So
happy.
another question or point of how this is done. So when you read out the question and the answer, the host or whatever would, like you just did, take a moment to say, wow, did anybody realize that? You would, it's kind of educational in that way.
Definitely.
So that's where
And I
you take,
actually
that's
put
where
that in
people
the
learn stuff.
instructions
Okay.
as a point to say, you know, when you, before running this game, it's really nice if you read over the questions yourself and then just say, wow, how would I comment on this? Or why is this a question in this game? Maybe this isn't, sometimes it's why is the question there? But also it's, you know,
How can I
if,
elaborate on it? What more can I teach?
you'll hear me elaborate on different things, because we as leaders in this, on this particular issue with American Promise, understand the issue a little bit better, and therefore it's very easy for us to answer questions of other people that we're playing with, for example. Okay, here comes the new one. Somebody please read.
I'll read it. How many cities and towns in the U.S. have formal resolutions calling for an amendment?
And the answer is more than
More than 800.
800. So if you have
Marie,
800
you okay?
on your bingo
Yeah, I
card,
was swallowing and speaking at the same time.
Okay.
what's
Okay,
that?
sorry.
I was starting to cough because I was swallowing and speaking at the same time.
Uh-oh,
Not advisable.
not advisable, right, okay.
So go ahead, Laura, with your comment. I interrupted because I was worried about Marie, but you were talking about, 800.
Oh, no, it's more than 800 cities
Right.
and towns.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of these questions are, you know, shocking to the general public.
Mhm. Mm.
So that's why we do it. It's amazing how people are going, wow, really, on most of this stuff. Okay, next question. Here we go. Greg, can you read this one?
Sure. How many amendments out of 27 were designed to overturn previous rulings of the U.S. Supreme Court?
And the answer is
Oh.
8.
8. So if you have 8 on your bingo card, you can mark that one. I guess we could ask ourselves here what some of those amendments might be. Maybe,
Yeah, that's, it's hard to name 8. I've heard 6, I've heard 7, and this is the first time I've heard 8. So I don't know that I could name 8.
Yeah, I know, I couldn't.
Yeah, I couldn't either, I don't think.
well, I think, African Americans or entire peoples, one, one.
Red
direct
Scott.
vote, yes.
13th, 14th, 15th, 19th, 20. What is the two for prohibition and not prohibition?
Right.
It's in a court ruling, that was, we
Yeah.
decided that alcohol was bad, and then we decided that was stupid.
Okay, here's the
Yeah.
next question.
It wasn't a court thing.
I'll read it. What year was prohibition repealed? The 21st Amendment.
19.
33.
1933, right. So we can imagine that the original was sometime before 1933. Okay, here we go.
What was the fastest passage of a constitutional amendment in weeks?
Okay, ready?
Yep. Oh,
I can't read that.
14 weeks.
Which one was
14
that,
weeks.
Laura?
That
the-
was voting age.
yeah.
Yes, it's
Oh,
the,
yes, I do remember that.
the
Yeah.
26th Amendment, right, in 1970, 71, changing the voting age from 18 to 21.
From 21 to 18.
So yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay,
And the question was ratification.
right,
Okay.
ratification, right.
Yeah.
Because there's another question about the longest one.
Yeah.
Which will come.
Oh, I
which
know that
we'll
one
probably
too.
come to. All right, next question.
How many states are needed to ratify an amendment to the US Constitution?
Okay,
38.
38.
Yeah.
How are we doing on our bingo cards? Is anybody playing along?
Oh,
Okay,
Trying to keep track.
So at some point, someone is going to shout out bingo,
mm-hmm.
right? That's how that
right.
works. Okay.
And then we're gonna go to the prize page,
And you're going to go to the, yeah, okay.
and then pick one, and I'll write down their name and address, and then we'll send it off to them.
51. Oh, what is the Senate's version of an amendment to limit election spending, companion HCR2?
Oh, 51.
Okay, so the
That's
first
right.
thing you have to know is that there actually is House Joint Resolution number 2 active in
Yeah.
Congress right now. So that's kind of amazing that there's an amendment, and there is a bill in the Senate too, and it's number 51. So if you have SJR 51 on your card, you can mark that down.
Okay, I see.
So I think this was the first time last summer when that Senate resolution was introduced, that we had active bills in both the House and the Senate that matched up, ready for
No, I think
No.
last year they
House
did.
or Congress.
Last year,
Congress did.
yeah, SJR 8 was last year, so they had it last biennium also.
They had it in a
Last Congress, yeah.
earlier time. That's right.
The interesting thing about this is that it was introduced by every non-Republican member of the Senate all at one time, all co-sponsored July 30th.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Every one of them was I didn't realize every one were sponsors.
Everyone. That's right.
Every one of them.
Hmm. I forgot that. Okay, here's a new question.
When was
When
the
was
last
the,
ratified in 38 states?
Okay, this is a tricky question because it's got a technical answer. So two answers are
oh,
possible.
yes.
1992 and 2020.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
we had the ERA ratified by 38 states finally in 2020, but now we have some
Yeah.
work to see if that's going to be acceptable.
Okay.
We're going to work our way through extending the time limit in order to make that the 28th Amendment in this case. Okay.
Laura,
Yes.
question, in your experience playing this, which you've done, I think at least several times, do people really typically get involved in the questions and discussions about the topic in between?
Yes.
Like we're sort of doing, so that
Yes,
is, yeah,
definitely, definitely.
Good.
So we have,
great.
The last time when I was doing it with my family was really great because we had people from, I had invited people from age 15 to 87 to join. And we actually had ages 19 to 63 in the party. And so we got a lot of interest on things like the question that's coming up now, what's coming up next. When we did the one about the voting age changing from 21 to 18, the 19-year-old said, wait a minute, I don't think they should let people, I don't think they should let people who are 18 vote because we don't know anything.
Mm.
And I said, oh, but you were old enough to be sent to Saigon to fight in the Vietnam War. I mean, that's the one I remember. I was a child at the time, but you know, it was a big deal. How about this one too? This got a lot of attention.
What was the percentage increase in youth voting 18 to 29 from 2014 to 2018?
Okay, so this is good news.
Wow.
215%. But then there's the bad news. It went from 13 to 28%.
Okay.
So this is where we have, you know, we have work to do.
Yes.
So when you have questions like this become inspiration for the
Action.
civicyouthvote.org
Yep.
and things like that, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you could just hear 4 people just go, oh, no.
Yeah.
You know, this is not good. Okay, here we go.
What was the longest passage of a constitutional amendment in years?
203.
Yeah.
The answer?
That one.
203. Wow. Was that
Ooh,
the
Heather knew that.
19th?
That was the
27th. That was the last one.
27th.
27th.
Mm-hmm.
All
The
right, I
one
have
that
good news.
says that Congress doesn't get to raise their
Oh,
pay
okay.
Salary.
until after the next election. So we have a chance to
Okay.
vote them out if we don't agree that that's a good idea. All right.
How many dollars were contributed to elections by the top 10 corporation donors in 2010 to 2016?
Mm-hmm. This actually, these days, seems like kind of a small number. So it's 700 million if you have that on your bingo card. We know now from reading books that were written last year that those numbers are much, much bigger now, like 10 times bigger than they were at the time. If we shut the door at 2016, if we go to 18 and then to 2020, we see the numbers just explode.
Wow.
All right. Next question.
Which state lost its mandate that only residents could legally make election contributions prior to Citizens United?
Mm-hmm.
Alaska,
Montana.
correct?
Alaska. Right. So you might see on your card, you've got other states to consider, but Alaska was that. And that was one of the states that had a law that said, you have to live here in order to contribute to our elections. And I don't know, a lot of people think that
That was just
makes common
recently. That
sense.
was just in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. Am I too close?
What percentage of Americans support the passage of amendment to limit money in politics?
Okay.
Let's say 80.
80%.
Average is
Yeah.
80%. This is a number that here you can say a lot of things. For example, the most recent is at University of Maryland study showed the lowest number for Republicans. 66% is the lowest number I've ever seen. Generally, it's well over 80 for every group, whether it's independents or Democrats. Okay, so here's a question that you would want to modify for your local audience.
How many American Promise members are in the Bay Area?
Okay, and the answer is 5,000.
Wow.
So you can make your
Whoa.
own. Yeah, you can actually because the
Bingo.
the questions are
Somebody got bingo.
Oh,
I did.
Heather.
all right, Heather, very good. Good job. Good job. This
So now you
question-
share your screen to the Amazon. Is that what you do when somebody
Yeah,
yells
now you
bingo?
go back, you share the screen. Exactly.
And then Ellen would
Share the
get to
prizes
order.
again.
Okay.
Hopefully you can see it, you're right. So you pick one of the wonderful prizes off the list. Actually, there actually are 3. Let's see if I can even, just monkeying around here. Let's see if it's not going to work. Okay, anyway.
Well, I'm perfectly happy with the dark chocolate and sea salt caramel.
All right.
I do not like chocolate covered fruit except for raisins.
Excellent. Okay.
And so then the person would just say, I want this, and then you go ahead and order it with their address and have it sent to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Cool, I love
And
it. You've
because
done
I
a
did
lot of
this-
work on this.
So, well, you know what? Every time you do it, you practice a little bit more and you learn
Yeah.
different things.
No,
and
it's fun.
your Zoom skills get
Yeah.
a little bit better. I actually say exactly how you can share. I give the instructions for how to share the Excel spreadsheet, which is a whole different thing to learn how to do. I was going to say something about this last question. Oh, about the 5,000 members in the Bay Area. This is a very important fact if you're meeting with your member of Congress, is to know, because you may be asked if you're there with 3 people, how many members do you have? When we told Nancy Pelosi we had 5,000 members, it was like, whoa, okay, I get it.
Wow.
You know.
So where did you get that information, Laura?
We got it from American Promise.
Who?
The thing is, we have a lot of paid members. A lot of people, like all of these nonprofits for every democracy reform group and many other groups, right, have a lot of people who sign petitions and pay dues to support the organization. And then really the work is done by a few leaders like us and other people who are very active on writing and having meetings with members of Congress and doing educational events, which we love doing educational events, right?
Maybe we should ask, at least for the states that have chapters, maybe we should ask Kimberly to provide the information of how many members there are. At least, maybe we can't ask.
No,
for,
that's a great idea,
Fort
Marie.
Clinton
Yeah.
area, South Jersey
Yeah.
area, but how many in the state? If we
Right.
knew that.
Right.
And I think that's an important piece of information for us to know
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
our contacts. I mean, I was blown away by that number. I was like, really? Wow.
And that's just the
Yeah.
Bay Area. It's not like it's all of California.
Right.
No,
Right,
they're-
right.
So we have there are about 5,000 in the Los Angeles area, 5,000 in the Bay Area, which is about 7 congressional districts, I would say, in the immediate area in the Bay Area. It's like being in northern New Jersey, where you have a lot of
Concentrated.
densely populated area, and therefore a lot of members of Congress to go.
A lot of
run around and
representatives.
see. Yeah,
Mhm.
here's one.
That's a New Jersey answer. What state's governor prevailed in the 2017 Democratic primary by spending $22 million of his own money? It was
Jersey.
It's New Jersey,
Yeah.
Phil Murphy. I was actually in New Jersey at the time, and there were, I want to say 8 people altogether on the ballot, and 3 or 4 very good credible candidates that came from the state legislature that had been running for years. And then all of a sudden I found out that the Democratic nominee was going to be Phil Murphy was the front runner. And I'm an independent voter, so I had to ask my Democrat friends about that. And they said, well, he's
Loaded.
a lot of money to the county committees. So here we go.
Oh, there's only one.
It's
that's not
true. Yep.
I would agree.
Okay, there were two. It used to
And
be.
there are three actually now. Jeff
Oh.
Van Drew. Jeff
What?
Van Drew. Because
Oh,
he switched
well,
parties.
yeah, that's,
Well, Walter Jones unfortunately has passed away, but he also, he's
Oh.
but Jeff Van
maintained his,
Drew signed it as a
Social
Democrat and he just happened to change parties.
well,
Okay.
also, yeah, he was also the primary sponsor in the New Jersey Senate when New Jersey
Oh.
passed a non-binding resolution. So I think that he would have done it anyway, but.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, here's a
Okay.
good question. Here's another question we can add. Which United States senator donated $78 million of his own money to his campaign?
Oh, would that be Romney?
Nope. Rick
Really?
Scott. Rick Scott.
Rick
Florida.
Scott?
Kidding.
Yep.
I didn't know he was
Oh.
that
$1 million
wealthy.
of his own money.
Oh my God.
Whoa.
He funded that.
Girl.
Well, as you'll see, it's very easy to change both the questions and the answers.
Yep.
When you look at the sheet that has the questions, you can just change the text and then you'll be able to print them the same
So,
way. You just
my
have to remember to replace the cells that have the answers have to be matched to the bingo cards, have to match the questions. Obviously.
Right.
Okay.
What, $1 million?
Right. So this is 1.5 million.
1.5.
And this, because this is a, I think was like a 2016 answer.
Yep, about
Then-
2 million now.
It's a lot more. It's a lot
Yeah.
more. And if it's a Senate race, it's 10 times more.
Yeah.
And there are
Wow.
some Senate races that have gone for like 100 million.
Oh.
That's
Mm.
part of Neil Simon's book, by the way.
I mean, how much better off would we be if most of that money went to something else?
A lot better off.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah.
Especially now, food pantries,
Yes.
research, you name it.
Paying
Obscene.
workers.
Yes,
Yeah.
it
Obscene.
is completely obscene.
Organizations that are working for passage of an amendment include.
Okay, include American Promise, obviously. In addition, well, there could be, I want to
Lots.
say 20 or
Representatives.
30 organizations. Here are some of the others, some of which we work with quite closely, right? Represent Us, we have a lot of events with them. And Citizens United is actually a Democratic initiative. Take Back Our Republic is a conservative group, and Wolfpack. So these are some groups you may have heard of, and many, many more. So if you have any, this is an example of any of these four answers may appear on your card. And on some cards, actually more than one may be. So this is an opportunity where you have one question may lead to getting 3 or 4 things filled in very quickly. And of course, there's always the option of having nothing filled in because you don't have the right answer on the page.
So Laura, I have another technical question.
Sure.
How do you go about generating other formats of the formulations of the answers on the card? Did you just do that randomly, or how did, in other words, so there would be various different cards?
On the bingo cards.
Yeah.
Yes, we know what, we'll cover that. If you don't mind, we'll cover that at the end. I have a little technical section where we'll go over the nuts and bolts of
Okay.
how to make one of these work. Just one more person to get a bingo, and then we'll move on to the other side.
Does anybody else have cards?
Not me.
No one else is playing. Okay, all right. So game over.
Actually, I did have, no, I didn't. I was still one short, but it doesn't matter.
No,
I-
it's okay. Oh,
Excellent,
then you can keep going.
Oh, yeah.
So one of this is a question about how many of the 10 Bay Area House members are co-sponsors of both the amendment bills, HJR 2 and HJR 48? And the answer is 7. 7 out of the 10 that are represented in our immediate area. So this is another one of those questions that you would want to modify in your question list in order to do either a local bingo game or a national one. You may modify the questions. And
The other thing, the other suggested question I have is, if it applies, is how many current members of Congress signed an American Promise pledge before they were elected?
Aha.
In your state. You could do it just by your state. And in New Jersey, we have 4. Van Drew, Andy Kim, Malinowski. Oh, and Mikey. No, Mikey didn't sign. I'm sorry, it was 3. Mikey didn't sign beforehand. Mikey Sherrill did not sign before. She's a co-sponsor now, but she didn't sign before.
But she never signed a pledge. She just co-sponsored a bill, right?
Correct. That's what I'm saying. She didn't sign a pledge before.
Yeah. She never has.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now we'll go to the part of the training where we just discussed. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to refer to this instructions, which will be part of the Excel spreadsheet. It's just a tab in Excel. The first part are about the materials you need, like
Can you share the screen again, Laura?
What's that?
Can you share it on your screen again?
It's in the Excel spreadsheet that she sent.
No, I know, but not everybody got to open that.
Oh, okay.
Not everybody got to open that in their email, I think.
Oh, sure, because, right. What I had done when I issued the original Excel spreadsheet in January or February, it was just about making the hard copy game to take to a brew pub. And the version that I'm working on right now, and I will make notes as of this call, a whole new section was added on the bottom called Zoom modifications, and we'll go over that now. How does this, playing this game in a virtual manner, how is it somewhat slightly changed based on not having an in-person meeting, but instead one that has to be done, virtually. So the first thing I did was I prepared to email a card generator sheet. The card generator is the tab on the Excel spreadsheet that has the bingo cards. So if you receive an email with a bingo card, you have 2 of these side by side on one sheet. And people can just pick one, or they can cut them apart and they can share with their partner or their friend at the party. The reason that I prepare to email the card generator ahead of time is because I want to be able to send each invitee a card just as soon as they RSVP or register to join the meeting. And I tell how to do that. You open the Excel workbook, and then you make a copy of the card generator sheet as a new workbook, which is just an Excel thing that I'm happy to help you with if you have questions about that. And then you generate a randomized card, which means that you have to carefully rearrange cells on the card. That means that you're changing the order of, let's see, I actually have this written down. Printing the bingo cards. You exchange the contents of 3 cells in each bingo card, being careful to choose different rows and columns. So sometimes I just exchange, if it's a 7 over here and a 700 million over there, then I exchange the order of them. Sometimes I rearrange any states that are on the card. I put them in different cells. We change Alaska, Montana, New Jersey, the different states that are offered there, or the names of different politicians over time, or the years. It's very easy to swap them in or out. The bingo cards are showing 25 cells, and you have a minimum of, I think, 35 answers. So some of them you can just directly swap from questions where they have different answers in order to make them different. But in order for them to be statistically unique, you actually have to rearrange the contents, not the name or number that's on the card. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because in order to get them in a straight line to win a bingo, either across a row or a column, they need to be in a different spot. So 2 cards will always be different if they have 3 cells across rows or columns that are different. Did I address your question about
Yes.
making a new card? Okay, so the way you can go directly from if you have on your computer, if you have the Excel spreadsheet open and you've just made a randomized card, I just leave that open because it's easy to share with the next person who registers. When you go out, the menu says File, like you're going to print that sheet, but instead of choosing print, you choose Share, and then you choose Email, and then you choose PDF. So it gives you the menu, and I've written this out on the instructions so you don't have to remember. If you have trouble, you can call me, no problem. I've done it so many now, it's easy to explain it. So you do that for everybody that registers. Remember, the first time I did this with my family, I sent the invitation at 11 o'clock and held the party at 4 Pacific time that day, a Saturday. You can schedule your Zoom meeting for Democracy Brewing Bingo. In this step, you invite people by email and ask them to register so that you can send them a bingo card, which is actually a page of 2 cards by email. And then in Zoom, check registration required and send an email to the host when someone registers. That's helpful because I get an email immediately as soon as they hit the registration button, and then I can quickly send them off their card. So this is one of the reasons I like to send the invitation at the beginning of the day and hold the party the same day, because then I'm not going like 4 or 5 days thinking, oh, did I remember to send somebody a card? You just send it, party's over. Then if people miss it, it's like, okay, Aunt Emery, you can join the party next weekend, because we'll be doing this again. Personalize your email invite to your group. Explain that they will receive a bingo card from you when they register if you haven't told them that already in the invitation. You generate 2 new cards on one sheet and email them to each participant as they register. And then before your virtual meeting, select 3 prizes somehow that's going to be appropriate to your group. I would just have to see what kind of people you have. I knew my family, the prizes I showed there. In my case, I used an online shopping cart, and I put them all in the shopping cart so that I could show them just by hopping over and sharing one screen very quickly during the meeting. Just to have them easily visible in your browser so they can be shown or shared with participants during the meeting. And then I would recommend just preparing a few introductory remarks about what the game is, including your personal statement about why this work is important to you. And maybe show a few slides, but remember, this is a game. It's supposed to be fun. It's not a presentation on Zoom. So if it's more of a party, I think that's a good thing. And the more low barrier meetings we have like this and events we can run, the better. It means that if I'm in Northern California, I can still have this kind of event with people in DC and Pennsylvania and New Jersey and Colorado all at the same time.
Nice.
So have fun with that.